Welcome to the Enceladus build. This entire build is based upon an idea of turning the Titan into a mythological sort of warrior that explodes the earth, causing shatters and eruptions around him. It's based upon a previous build idea I had, but this now with the Abyss League, the build requires endurance charges, which this does. And it's using the effect of jagged ground explosions, which you'll see in this video, to cause massive amounts of physical damage in a delay around the character, as well as aftershocks damage along the fissures. So it has three forms of damage happening, not at once, in different sequences, to slowly melt the creatures. The jagged ground explosions, the fissures themselves, and then the aftershocks, as well as the stampede. The stampede is used to ignite or to explode all the jagged grounds, as you can see in this clip here. The other parts of this build, it is an armor stacking build. I'll show you a bit more detail in the build guide at the end. This is just kind of illustrating the clear potential, which is quite awesome. Rares just kind of melt. Now there's another part to this as well, which is spike pit, which is a notable that increases damage taken to mobs who are standing in the jagged ground effect, and that obviously magnifies the three forms of damage that get taken. So the fissure, the aftershocks, and then the explosions of the jagged ground. This isn't a super high mob map, but in some of them you will see the totems themselves igniting or setting off each other. So you'll see jagged grounds exploding other jagged grounds around them, and then a totem laying a fissure on top of it, which then explodes. The keen, interesting thing about this build is being tactful, because you want to try to cause your totems to spread out the fissures and to crisscross over each other. So there's a very tactful sort of gameplay element to it, which I like. So it's being conscious of where you lay your totems so that they're not getting blocked by trees. So sometimes you can place a totem and then get out of the way of the enemies, then to like the shot here, which then will explode the jagged grounds where you were. So it's a good way of kind of set and forget. You know some mobs are there, you place a totem down, and then you get out of the way, and your stampede, the length of it, will ignite. It'll explode, so not ignite, explode those jagged grounds. Again, I apologize for the lack of sound effects. Quite sure what happened when I was recording initially, but I don't have much footage at the moment. Here we go, showing a ritual and why the totems are really good, because they are literally doing all the damage for you. The reason I like this build is it's a thematic build. It is just fun, and it's different and also. And the reason why I haven't been able to get any more build videos is my computer and this recent build just do not behave. Like, I get massive slowdown, and after a while the build or the game crashes. You could start to see some of the slowdown now. Nice to get a bit of lag when I'm trying to do a video. And I think here you start to see some of the slowdown, but there was an example of how the rears just melt. They're getting hit by your Stampede, and then they're getting hit by fissure damage, the aftershock damage, and then the exploding jagged grounds. Oh my fucking god. Oh, come on. Welcome to the build run through for my Enceladus build. Now, I am unable to do or show any boss fights just because my computer is not handling the last build, so it crashes all the time. But I have enough gameplay beforehand to give you a general idea of the build. This build is based upon damage in and around fuses, causing massive jagged grounds explosions, as well as the aftershocks through the various fuses and the totem poles. This is purely a build around an idea, the idea of a warrior that is tearing apart the earth around it, you know, fuses and connecting damage and creating area damage in a different way rather than purely just a earthquake or a leech slam. So let's run you through the build. I'm going to, do you know what, probably best take you through the actual general idea. The whole build is based around the Ancestral warrior totem. I am generating endurance charges and then placing down warrior totems. These warrior totems use volcanic fissures. This is obviously a core part of this build. This doesn't by itself do a lot of damage, but it's about creating ground damage where you are getting 2 or 3 different types of damage or more spikes off. Ancestral totems is great because it means you can position it with some gameplay thought about trying to cause as many of these fuses to overlap, to cross over each other, causing massive areas of multiple damage sources. The second trick to this is jagged grounds number 1. So when I lay down the totems, because the supporting skill supports that endurance charge, it actually creates jagged ground along the fissure. Jagged grounds lasts a little bit less time, but it doesn't really matter. This explodes when triggered. It also adds in a slowing effect, which is quite nice. The other part is I'm just trying to get a few more fissures. I'm not overdoing it because the damages reduction is quite nice to have multiple sources of damage, so I don't really want to reduce that too much. And rapid attacks, because I'm losing attack speed and I want as many as possible. And then I'm just applying a lot more elemental damage to the fire aspect of this. Now the unique thing about this is it becomes self-activating. So what I mean by that is in the past videos you saw when I slammed and I got a jagged ground which was exploding, and then if another totem laid a fuses on top of that would auto detonate. So you get this crazy screen filled wipeout of jagged grounds exploding, doing physical damage. You've got the fire damage from the fuses as well as the aftershock damage, which is here. So we've got a reasonable chance to cause an aftershock. Which is really unique, and the aftershock is 100% damage, physical damage along it from whatever attack you did. What I'm using to detonate it and to generate endurance charges is Stampede. Stampede has been nerfed damage-wise a lot, and it doesn't feel like it covers much ground, but it's still very unique because of this part here, which is the explosion. Working back to front. This explodes the jagged grounds. So wherever you land, making sure you land on the fissures will explode all the jagged grounds in that fissure, as well along every interconnecting fissure that is overlapping. The slam itself here sends aftershock damage along those fissures, and the footsteps is just a way of doing more damage and moving around. It's actually one of my core fundamental movement skills, believe it or not. this combination sounds simple, it does a lot of good work. Supporting gems. I'm just trying to do as much damage as possible, as well as a few other unique effects. So if I get some distance, I do more damage. Now, unique enduring impacts too. So because I stun a lot, because I'm a Titan, let's go across here. I am increased stun build up. All my hits are crushing blows, which means they're heavy stuns. And then I'm just doing more damage. Do not overlook the small damage, because my Stampede isn't a big damage dealer, so this really helps spread out that damage. So, gaining endurance charges. I'm also breaking damage, breaking armour on physical attacks, and then I have another chance to grab another endurance charge. Sometimes I can get 4 or 6 endurance charges of one Stampede upon a mob. I'm exploding just to do a bit more damage, which is important, and I'm just trying to do more physical damage, because it's not a lot, but remember the steps, like this explosion damage here, it's not a lot. I'm just trying to get as much as possible, because the thing with jagged grounds, this doesn't seem a lot, but this is happening multiple times. Sometimes a monster rare or a boss will be in several of these, so it adds up a lot, and it's just super fun. That's the sort of 2 core parts that I'm doing. I'm using shield charge for a bit more mobility, for doing a bit more damage, etc. And just some fire penetration, because I use this on boss fights just to help with the final aspect. I'm using Infernal Cry. It's just a really good single target damage, especially in boss fights. Really, really helps. I'll speak to that more later. Wind Dancer. This is how am I surviving? Wind Dancer. What I'm using Wind Dancer is, yes, as a way of gaining rage. This is surviving. More physical damage, a chance to gain more endurance charges, which is really important, because I am dropping, 2 totems down. There's sometimes in a fight I can have 4 or 5 out, and it's just complete screen melt, and also burning out my CPU. Blind, just to kind of help survive, and some life leech. Scavenge plating. This is intense. I'm a armor stacking build, so this is really, really important. Getting a bit more life recovery on kill. It's lasting longer, and just life fast, because I had a slot and that was pretty cheap. Time of need. I've got this reduced down to 7 seconds. 6 seconds. Yeah, so this just does a little wee tick. This is 2 things. It's a heal, but it's a cleanse. So it removes all curses and elements, which is really essential with some maps. A bit more freeze reduction. That's my sort of... I'm just going to quickly check what weapon am I on. Yep. Okay. Single target damage. What I'm doing is... thing. So I'm using supercharged slam. This does obscene amounts of damage. How am I working this? So my main part with supercharged slam is it's going to be done after I have reduced the armor, broken the armor down to 100%. So whenever I use it, it's ancestrally boosted. That means more damage and more area, which is great. I'm doing more physical damage. I'm using consuming rage to deal more damage. Notice the more, and more damage again. This is the unique one here. Because it's a channeling skill, I'll go back to here. I have this set up for 4 stages. So after 4 seconds, I will release 4 attacks, each of them doing 40% more damage for each stage. So the final attack will be, 160% more damage. It is insane. And I'm also doing an aftershock per stage. So, and they gain. So that's what we're doing is, remember, this here is repeating this. So my final shock, if I get off 4 seconds, is going to be massive. So here. So after 4 seconds, well, it's actually this reaches that 40% sooner, but it's not much of a big deal. And what I'm doing to help support this is my Infernal Cry. My Infernal Cry, obviously, I'm just trying to be stuck with certain things, getting some more rage. I am consuming the broken armour to trigger this unique one. Not many people use this, but I actually really like it because it does some unique things. Ignore the critical damage chance. I don't hardly ever hit with critical damage. 50% more damage against uniques, and deals more physical damage. Deals physical damage to percentage of the broken armour. So this works with the broken armour effect, firing off a lot of damage, especially against bosses. Where am I? Cooldown recovery, I want to use as much as possible. This is a chance for it not to count consume the endurance charges essentially, or the empowered state. And I'm just, when I am doing this cry, I am doing some physical damage. This Infernal Cry here, it does this empowered attack of 40% damage of extra fire damage. So this is just part of how it works. The part of this why for my 2 weapon setup for single damage, why it becomes more powerful is because of 2 changes in my skills. These green, I'm just trying to do more fire damage. I'm reducing my things around totems, and I'm doing more fire damage, and I'm also doing more empowered attack damage in this goodie here. So which means every Infernal Cry, I have a chance of empowering 2 attacks, which is really powerful, especially with my supercharged slam. And I'm just trying to get more I mean, this is obvious, I'm heavy stunning everything, and I tend to fire off my supercharged slam when I've actually heavy stunned a unique or a boss, so they're down, just doing more fire damage. Now this is probably a good timing to talk about the passive skills that support the totems. Let's just roll this out. So, endurance charge regeneration. I'm coming down to here to this goodie here, grit. So this increases my maximum endurance charges. So baseline's 3 up to 4. But while I'm consuming, I'm increasing my armour quite significantly. This is only for 4 seconds. Recently. Recently. Yeah, past 4 seconds. But it really helps because I'm firing them off a lot. So that's 1 extra endurance charge. Because I run about 6 at this point in time. That seems okay. The next one here is this. So this is extra 3 endurance charges, including the last one. And I'm just trying to have a bit more duration so that they are holding on between fights. To support the totems, trying to do a little more damage. It's not my main aim. My main aim is attack speed. And attack speed, I definitely like to go up to here again. But what I'm just trying to do here is get my totems firing off as much as possible. That overlaying damage upon each other self-detonates, and it just, the more that you have, when you've got 4, it just does an impressive job. the other thing that I'm trying, and I like this is more about flavour, but spike pit. So I actually really noticed this. This is, reading this, it's not an extra 10% damage, it's the enemies in take 10% increased damage. This is from all sources. This is physical, fire, damage, etc, etc. And I did try this route, but I just like the increase of the slow. It's noticeable. So all of the enemies within the jagged grounds just kind of get stuck there, and it slows them down. It's great in times of lots of swarms. Well, I'm going to miss the swarms. Typical things about this build: giant's blood, obvious. I've got invested in a few of these increased damage tags here while I'm on damage. A bit more area effective aftershocks, because I'm creating a lot of aftershocks with the supercharged slam and just my normal movement speed, including over here increased aftershocks. I'm going for all the more damages. So once again, I have 20% there, and on my ascendancy 50%, so that's 70% more damage, not increased, more damage against stunned opponents, which really helps. Recoup life and more armor. Doing a lot of armor stacking. This is, now it's probably a time to speak about this. I'm armor stacking, so I've got a lot of investment in armor here, and I have a little bit of armor here. And then what I'm doing is turning all this armor into elemental. And if you just kind of have a check, may not seem a lot now, but when I have scavenged plate, which is, this goes up to 40% more damage. So you can see that this will goes up well past 90, and then the elemental damage isn't capped. So I have seen in fights my elemental damage been well more than that 37 here. Now remember, when I got endurance charges, all of these come off as well, so that's like another 90% increased damage. Armor. Spikes these up. I don't really care, and I don't even really notice this too much. My resistances are not capped because I am just stacking so much armor. And yeah, now the other thing I want to talk about is survivability. I have overall life, but there's a reason why. Go back down to another part of the survivability of this build, and that is investing in a lot of life leech. Life leech, 40% more damage, and then increased. This means fast metabolism. When my life leech hits 100%, it continues going. So when I am playing, quite often I have my total life recovery can between like 1,000 to 2,000%, and it's ticking over about 1.4 seconds, because I'm also investing in this little cluster. So increased life leech, slower. My plan was to come down here and invest in these ones for increased life leech, and then to get the initial chunk of it to be instant. So that would mean that I'm instantly topping up life. Now it's obscene. I'm just going to show you how much life leech I actually have. Let's just take my mace strike. 43%. That's a lot. That's all physical damage as life leech. That's a really odd concept, but when I'm in full, charging around, slamming, doing a lot of damage well around me, as I've said, I have seen my life being around 1,000 plus 1400, 2000 a second or more, which means any sort of damage that comes in immediately gets absorbed by that, sort of like a false life pool on top. It's not bulletproof, but once again, this is a thematic build, and it's just something I wanted to try out. Obviously, I don't really care about block or anything like that. I am, believe it or not, my resistances, my ability to mitigate damage is ridiculous. Other parts. Let's just go through the gear a little bit. It's not really a gear dependent build. So what I have here is 2 weapon setup. Just a mace could be stronger, but it's all good. Look, it does a lot of plus to level of all melee. Onslaught, which is great when I'm charging around to get that little boost in speed, and more aftershock damage, so that all my stampedes can aftershock, and then once again that can sort of just help clear out the room a bit more. I've got a pretty good shield, just lots of increased armour, something I've gone for and everything. Even my belt has a lot of armour, a little bit extra life leech. You may have noticed I don't have any mana because I'm using my black magic. Well, this is another part of my skills. I should have said splitting ground to get an extra chance of fuses damage, and there's some area effect damage and spread around here. Not a big deal. You know, gloves, same thing. Look, in this build I've gone for 2 things. The armor also applies elemental damage, and just trying to get some extra leech because I need to have some attacks with that leech, just get things going, otherwise it doesn't do anything. More leech there, reasonably high armor with some spirit. The reduced attributes is a waste of time, but I haven't been able to craft a better one. Lots of armor, same thing, lots of armor on my helmet. Extra strength just to try to get strength up, and that won't mana is a waste of time. And believe it or not, because I am stampeding everywhere and shields charging, I'm moving pretty quickly, so I don't have movement speed. I've gone for just more armor on my boots. That's completely non-meta, and I get it, don't really care. Increased magnitude of a knight, so if I've consumed endurance charge, I'm laying down volcanic fissures everywhere. That really helps just to melt people. And a really heavy armor based with global defense type amulet and onless. Just once again, if I have hit an enemy with melee attack, an increased melee attack against an immobilized, which is, you know, a heavy stun. So I'm just trying to make the most of my playing style. Nothing unusual here. My single target damage is a little bit different. I just like this. It does a lot of really good damage. Believe it or not, even at super low level. And also Chinabox Pillar. It's quite a well-known and used shield. I haven't really min-maxed this at all, but I'm getting extra 26. What is it? Let's have a look at my character here. So I'm getting another 20%. I believe it's extra fire damage on top. So this is my single target. I'm just trying to eke out as much damage and do more fire damage to play around with how I've set things up on my tree behind here. But that's really the kind of the fundamentals of the build. My general playing style, laying down lots of totems wherever they are. I love to use Forge Hammer on boss fights to stack up a bit more armor break and exposure. Have a chance to break the armor to get some endurance charges, which is useful, obviously, because I need it for my cries. Break more armour permanently, do a bit more physical damage. Believe it or not, this does quite a bit of damage. Just a nice little range attack too. I do actually use Ray's Shield. Often when I'm stampeding around, I will hold. I will hold shield. I will charge. I will hold. And I will charge. And it just gives me a moment to actually block. Another hint. People don't use active blocking enough as warriors, in my humble opinion. Yeah, nothing really else here. Just doing what I'm doing. Really enjoyed this build. I'm going to stop there and upload it and slice it together with my play videos. I really hope this next season that they kind of fix some of the multi-core CPU problems, because I've had a lot of issues with my not being able to complete maps, not being able to really progress as much as I want. I'm looking forward to the Druid. There's some possibilities of extending some of the future ideas I have into that. Anyway, thank you for watching.